Hello boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about socialism versus capitalism. Alright. Before I start, let me say that I don't espouse either socialism or capitalism as a sole arbiter of intelligence and knowledge on government in the world. Alright, now that that's out of the way. Okay, what are the core beliefs of capitalism, pure capitalism, versus pure socialism? Well, pure capitalism essentially says that I am an individual and that all things that I produce as an individual are owned by me. I own my body, I own all of the labor of my body, no matter what. And if you try to take any of that labor away from me, you're basically stealing my time. So that would apply to taxation. Taxation would be referred to as theft by someone like a Robert Nozick or a Stefan Molyneux. On the other hand, you have pure socialism. Pure socialism says that all resources are owned by the state, essentially, and that everyone works for a piece of that state-owned money or what a piece of the financial pie. So the person on the left, the socialist, will say that your individual rights don't count for as much, or in some cases at all, in the face of the social good. Where do I stand on that? Well, here's the problem, okay? In principle, I understand, yes, I own my body, I own my labor. However, would I say that it is never right for the state to come and tell me to do something at the point of a gun for the good of society as a whole? Well, I'm not so sure. Here's an example. Say Las Vegas, right, which is fed by, I think, the Colorado River, or whatever river it is. I think it's Colorado River, could be anything else. But say the Colorado River dries up and there's no more water for Las Vegas, right? The whole city is going to crumble. There's the industry of tourism that sustains the entire city will fall flat on its face. There is just no way to sustain the city without that water. Well, say there's a private individual who, fairly close to the city, owns a lake. Is it justifiable for the state to say to the person owning the lake, hey, we need to feed the city of Las Vegas, or millions of people will be displaced, they will lose their homes. This city that's existed for decades and has sustained so many people, so many hookers and drug dealers and gamblers and entertainers and everybody else, all of the people sustained by this city in the city are going to be massively impacted badly unless your water is used to sustain the city. Is the government within its rights to tell that person to do so? I'd say that there's a pretty good argument, from the point of view of Mills's utopian greatest happiness type deal. The greatest happiness for all would be served by using that water to sustain the city. It does infringe on the individual private owner of that land, but I think that there is a fairly good argument for forcing that person to provide for the greater good of everyone. So, once you agree that infringement on personal rights is okay, well, now we have to have a discussion about how far can the government go in infringing on a personal right for the greater good of everyone. And that is where the discussion should be had. Where is the dividing line? Because we live in a world where global warming is a serious problem. It's going to cause weird resource constraints on people all across the world. I don't think that giving every single individual the freedom to abuse the environment as he sees fit without any regulation is conducive to sustaining the human race. However, on the other hand, socialism saps all of a people's will to produce anything. Basically, a socialist society relies on the taxes of younger people to sustain the older people and the infirm of that society. So once you have taught young people that no matter how hard they work, they won't ever get any more for their work than what they're allotted by the state, it de-incentivizes hard work, and you have a society that slowly collapses in on itself because people work hard less and less. Because people really need motivation. I mean, the motivation to go out and work hard comes from being able to gain resources by working hard. I mean, there are some professions that that isn't true for. I mean, I would continue being an artist, I suppose. A professional athlete would still be a professional athlete because they love what they do. But think about how hard a demolitions expert has to work, or a garbage man. If there was no more incentive to being a hazardous waste material technician versus a hairdresser, why would anyone do it? You would have serious dearths of people filling certain occupations. So again, in the middle somewhere, purely capitalist is a disaster for the environment. Purely socialist is a disaster for the well-being and prosperity of an economy. So somewhere in between, we have to find the happy medium. Besides the fact that we don't exist in a vacuum. If the United States didn't tax its citizenry in order to provide for a basic defense, well, the basic defense of citizenry against an invading nation would just have to rely on basically each individual citizen going, oh, well, I hope that this private firm can defend us, and donating to that private firm, or buying weapons from it. It would just become an untenable mess of However, the counterexample to that is our military is so destructive around the world, causing untold damage across the world, that maybe we would be better off without a military, because foreign opinion of our country would benefit from the lack of military intervention around the world. And also, there is a fairly good defense that if America was invaded by another nation, that we would gather up resources to create a militia that would fight back against them. I'm not so sure that I believe that, and I do believe that the U.S. Navy is fairly critical for providing shipping lanes around the world and this kind of thing that are free from pirate attack. There are very good things that come along with a limited amount of defense spending. But again, somewhere in the middle between the two, and the political debate is not between pure socialism and pure capitalism anymore, and someone like a Stefan Molyneux who says, no, the only way to go is pure anarchy, that's the only right and moral and just way to look at the world, I think is putting themselves in a box. That's my show for today. Thanks.